All right, welcome to week 3 with Ramsay Hunt Syndrome. It's been a hard week. I'll get into the details when I talk about what's been going on physically, but let's start out with some frequently asked questions. One of the questions I get a lot is, does the shingles vaccine prevent Ramsay Hunt Syndrome? Well, Ramsay Hunt Syndrome is caused by the same virus that causes chickenpox and shingles. So yes, the shingles vaccine should help prevent Ramsay Hunt syndrome. What I see is you usually can't get it, or it's not recommended to get it till you're 50. I'm not 50. So if you're under 50, check with your doctor. Second question, why do I use a cane when I walk? Well, it comes down to vertigo. My vertigo creates such instability that when I'm outside, I don't have something to hold on to. I use a cane to keep myself stable. The way I like to think about it is, that game where you spin around a baseball bat and then try and run to a certain location. It's not quite that bad, but it's bad. It's like kind of like it shortly thereafter. So I'm pretty unstable without the cane. The cane keeps me from falling. Falling is not good. Another question I get a lot is, are you feeling better? Short answer is not really. The recovery from this particular syndrome, especially in my case, we have a pretty severe case of it, it's going to be measured in months, possibly years. So week to week, not much changes, unfortunately. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about physical update. I'm going to do a palsy check. So if we look here, raising the eyebrow, closing the eyes. You can see that eye doesn't like to close. Creepy. Smiling. Whistling. Can't do it. All right. I have a level 6 palsy, which means complete paralysis. Pretty bad. Hopefully it'll start coming back at some point. Let's talk about some good news. Well, my insomnia got a lot better this week. I don't know why. I don't know if it was magnesium, getting off the steroids, but I felt a lot better this week, which was nice. You'll see that my sleep score is much better. I'm sleeping a lot longer. I'm not getting great sleep. I'm getting longer sleep, so I'm hoping I'll get better sleep over time. Also, the shingles in my ear appear to be healing. The sores are falling off, so that's good. Bad news, big bad news. I had vestibular migraines hit me the day after the last video. At least that's what I think they are based on my research. Essentially what happens is I get this rush of vertigo kind of in my eyes and around this area of my head. If I'm standing up, it feels like the earthquake, I'm going to fall down. It's bad. If I'm sitting down, I have to close my eyes, just the whole world's spinning. It's kind of like that baseball bat game, right when you get up from the baseball, really bad. Not painful, and good news is no nausea, thank goodness. But the week started out really bad, like just kind of paralyzingly frequent migraines. Did some research, changed my diet, got rid of some foods that are supposedly triggers for these type of migraines. So sugar, fermented foods, which is kind of sad because those are good for your gut. Certain nuts, chocolate, and processed foods. And I found as I've been more disciplined in what I eat, I'm better. Surprise, surprise. I also introduced some vitamins, CoQ10, more magnesium, and it's definitely gotten better over time. The downside is my baseline vertigo is higher than it's been. So things are really spinning hard right now. But the brain adapts. Hopefully it'll keep adapting. Another odd symptom, my tongue. I didn't really notice this until I was reading in a support group I'm on Facebook. Sometimes you lose taste. I haven't lost taste, but it kind of feels like my tongue's burned. Kind of like when you drink really hot drink, like hot chocolate. It feels kind of burned. Hasn't really affected my taste. It's just weird. Things that haven't changed, well, Still can't hear out of this ear. Lots of ringing, lots of tinnitus. Still lots of exhaustion. You saw earlier, still lots of palsy and the paralysis in the face. The exhaustion is probably just from all the things, right? Just so much sensory overload makes me tired, which is why it's good I'm getting good sleep. I'm kind of in this like initial recovery phase. I can't go back to the ear, nose, throat specialist for 6 weeks. He's like, we just got to let it settle. But I am going to look at some alternate treatments. So I'm going to check out a acupuncturist this week. I'm also exploring hyperbaric chamber treatment. They put you in a tube, crank up the atmospheric pressure with oxygen. It's supposed to be good for a lot of things. Unfortunately, there hasn't been a lot of research on this condition. So it's kind of in the unknown, but some people have seen positive results. So we're doing some research on that. And that challenge is, this is a very rare condition. It's only 5 out of 100,000 people in the US get this every year, which by my math is about 17,000 people. Compare that to the flu, where anywhere from 9 to 41 million people get the flu every year. Or 800,000 people, over 800,000 people a year in the United States, have a heart attack. So there's just not a lot of research on this, which means kind of winging it to a certain degree. Let's talk about how I'm feeling mentally and with work. Happily, I've been able to work still. I've been doing about 4 to 5 hours a day. And that's good because mostly all I can do is sit in this chair or another chair, usually with my head back to help stabilize the vertigo. And I'm on my laptop. So not as productive as my desk where I have 2 monitors. But I'm able to do some work, get on some calls, write some stuff. That helps because otherwise, man, the day would be boring. I mentioned I did have a sleepless night. This is the first week of April 2025. There was a big announcement by the president. President Donald Trump announced reciprocal tariffs that were really high. In my primary business, Ledger Gurus, we do outsourced accounting for e-commerce businesses that are mostly importing manufactured products from other places because that's where all the manufacturing happens. And this is going to be really bad. So that left me with a lot of stress. Stress isn't good for this syndrome. That night I didn't sleep so well. So I'm attributing it to the stress. Emotionally, it's been a hard week. The migraines have been kind of soul crushing. Also, this was spring break for the public schools. We had a trip planned with my sisters. We'd booked it, paid for it. And so I sent my wife and youngest 2 kids on the trip. A lot of neighbors were out of town, a lot of friends are out of town. So a little bit quieter. And with the migraines, I was just like, but I did have some nice visits from a couple of friends who didn't go out of town. That's always awesome. So that kind of brings me to my last point. Where am I feeling spiritually? I'm a spiritual dude. And I've been thinking a lot about suffering. And what is the purpose of suffering? Is there a meaning to suffering? Is there a spiritual purpose? I found this really great quote. This is by an apostle who's passed away from my church, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And he said, suffering is universal. How we react to suffering is individual. Suffering can take us one of 2 ways. It can be a strengthening and purifying experience combined with faith, or it can be a destructive force in our lives if we do not have the faith in the Lord's atoning sacrifice. The purpose of suffering, however, is to build and strengthen us. If you are, I'll speak of a Christian background, the scriptures are full of suffering. No greater than that of Jesus Christ. If you think about especially the last days of his life in the Garden of Gethsemane and on the cross, serious suffering. And, he suffered so he could redeem us, know how to comfort us, and how to heal us. Now, some of you watching this might be like, hey, I don't believe in God. That's okay. My only thought was a quote from a popular book and a movie, The Count of Monte Cristo. The one I think about is the one from 2002 with Jim Caviezel, better known as Jesus, and I forget the name of that movie, and Richard Harris, who played Avi Faria, or the priest, better known as Dumbledore, but he's a great actor. And there's a scene where Richard Harris, the priest, is about to die from an accident, and he's telling Edmond, Jim Caviezel, about this treasure. And Jim Caviezel had been imprisoned unjustly, and he wanted to use the treasure for revenge. And the priest says, no, vengeance is for God. And Edmund says, I don't believe in God. And the priest responds, that doesn't matter. He believes in you. So as a parting thought, God believes in us. God believes in you, even if you don't believe in him. And when you're suffering, there's a chance to kind of find your higher power, your God, whatever it is. Encourage you to do that. So that's my video. If you liked it, like it, share it, subscribe to this channel for more of this in the future. I hope it helps those who are suffering or interested in those that are suffering or curious about my condition. And I'll see you next week.